Hello, Ape. Hello, Apush. As always, this is Brandon Daly, and we are going through the AP US History book curriculum, and we are doing a lesson every other day of the week on online Apush tutoring. So today, I want you to first open Google Classroom. Two, I want you to open the assignment called Lesson 2.2 or Lesson 2 Assignment 2 um, because that's where we are at. We are going through the Chesapeake colonies and religious issues in Maryland and labor shortages as it relates to the Chesapeake colonies. Take a moment, step back. We are in the chapter of the 13 colonies and the British Empire. This is before America becomes the United States of America and how we started the 13 colonies. In 1632, King Charles I subdivided the Virginia colony. He chartered a new colony on either side of the Chesapeake Bay and granted control of it to Lord Baltimore. As a reward for this, Catholic nobleman's service to the crown. The new colony of Maryland does become the first proprietary colony. I want you to search on Google what is that type of colony and put that in your assignment. The king expected proprietors to carry out his wishes faithfully, thus giving him control over a colony. The first Lord Baltimore died before he could achieve great wealth in his colony, while also providing a haven for his fellow Catholics. The Maryland proprietorship passed to his son Cecil Calvert, the second Lord Baltimore, who set about implementing his father's plan in 1634. So in 2 years since King Charles I subdivided the Virginia colony, the Act of Toleration, this is an important concept in this chapter. To avoid persecution in England, several wealthy English Catholics immigrated to Maryland and established large colonial plantations. They were quickly outnumbered, however, by Protestant farmers. Protestants therefore held the majority in Maryland's assembly. In 1649, Calvert persuaded the Assembly to adopt the Act of Toleration, the first colonial statute granting religious freedom to all Christians. However, the statute also called for the death of anyone who denied the divinity of Jesus. I want us to think back to religious freedom. We have heard that in elementary and middle school as it relates to the 13 colonies and specifically to a group of people called the Pilgrims, which we talked about. And how does that last sentence defy why we came here, defy religious freedom. Self-explanatory, I want you to write it down. So there was a revolt in the late 1600s. Protestants' resentment against a Catholic proprietor erupted into a brief civil war. The Protestants triumphed and the Act of Toleration was repealed. Catholics lost their right to vote in elections for the Maryland Assembly. In the 18th century, Maryland's economy and society was much like that of neighboring Virginia, except that in Maryland there were greater tolerance of religious diversity among different Protestant sects. So that was the revolt that led to a mini civil war that led to the Act of Toleration being repealed. Indentured servants, headright system, and slavery are the three topics that I want you to take notes on. Indentured servants. At first, so we are talking about labor shortages in the Chesapeake colony. At first, the Virginia Company hoped to meet their need for labor using indentured servants. Under contract with a master or landowner who paid for their passage, young people from the British Isles agreed to work for a specified period, usually between 4 to 7 years, in return for room and board. In effect, indentured servants were under the absolute rule of their masters until the end of their work period. At the expiration of that period, they gained their freedom and either worked for wages or obtained land of their own to farm. For landowners, this system provided laborers, but only for a temporary time. The headright system. Virginia attempted to attract immigrants through offers of land. The colony offered 50 acres of land to each immigrant who paid for his own passage and any plantation owner who paid for an immigrant's passage. So that's the headright system. They wanted to attract people to this new up and coming way of America, United States, to the colonies. Slavery. In 1618, a Dutch ship brought an unusual group of indentured servants to Virginia. They were Black Africans. Because English law at the time did not recognize slavery, the first Africans in Virginia were not in bondage for life, and any children born to them were free. Moreover, the early colonists were struggling to survive and too poor to purchase the Africans who were being imported as slaves for sugar plantations in the West Indies. By 1650, there were only about 400 African laborers in Virginia. However, by the end of the 1660s, the Virginia House of Burgesses had enacted laws that discriminated between blacks and whites. Africans and their offspring were to be kept in permanent bondage. They were slaves. So there was a specific point in that time period between 1619 and the late 1660s that something changed. Bacon's Rebellion. I want you to read about Bacon's Rebellion on your own. There's a separate video attached and separate article. And write down the lasting problems that the Bacon Rebellion had. Alrighty, guys. Thank you for watching or listening to Lesson 2.2. See you guys next time.